welcome to Off the Shelf. Tonight I'm going to read what's left of Chapter 9 to Resident Evil Zero Hour. Enjoy. The trip up to the third floor had been uneventful. Though they'd had to hurry through the dining room, the two zombies that roamed around the tables had been slow to bother shooting. She didn't feel particularly comfortable taking a leisurely stroll past the dying creatures either. Considering that Billy was 3 steps ahead of her, he obviously felt the same. Now, standing at the top of the stairs, Rebecca relaxed a little. The third floor, at least this part was it, was a single giant room, no hidden corners to worry about. The doors to the observatory were over to their right. Straight across from them was the breeding pool, a recessed, empty pit that stretched most of the room's length. And to the left, a door that, according to the map, led to an outdoor patio. What do you think they were breeding? Billy asked, his voice low. Still, it echoed slightly in the vast room. Don't know. Leeches, maybe, she said. She thought about that solitary figure they'd seen from the train, singing to the leeches, and suppressed a shudder. So, observatory or patio? Billy looked back and forth, then shrugged. It seems safe. We could each take one door. Just open and look. Though, no splitting up, okay? Rebecca nodded. She definitely felt safer having a bigger supply of ammo, but that fall had knocked some caution into her. She wasn't nearly so gung-ho on separating. I'll take the patio. They moved out, their footsteps echoing in the huge chamber. The door to the observatory was closer. Only her steps rang out after a moment as she continued on to the south wall. Hey, Billy called as she reached the door. He was holding up what looked like a book, 2 more in his other hand. Rebecca squinted across the large room, saw that they were made of stone, that each was rounded on one end. These were in front of the door. What are they? She said, her voice so low, carried easily in the still, cool air. Decorative, maybe, he said. Each one has a word etched on the front. He looked down at the tablets, shuffled through them. Ah, we got unity, discipline, and obedience. That recording they'd heard. Dr. Marcus's recitation of the company motto. They were the same 3 words. Hang on to 'em, Rebecca said. They might be part of some puzzle, like the animals. My thoughts exactly, Billy said in a lowered voice. Crazy ass house. She turned back to the door, raising her handgun as she pushed at the handle, and it was locked. She sighed, her shoulders sagging, realized how amped up she'd been for some kind of attack. Locked, she called out. Billy opened the door to the observatory and was still looking inside. He turned back, holding the door open. This might be promising. I don't know what any of it does, but there's a shitload of equipment in here. Maybe a radio, too. A radio. She felt her hope surge. The word come was cut off by a sound of animal movement. A heavy rattle that reverberated through the room. She and Billy both stared at one another, the distance between them suddenly much greater than she'd previously thought. The sound came again. It was the sound of something hard, rapidly clattering against rock, like someone drumming steel fingers against a tabletop. And it was loud. Whatever it was big and getting closer. From the increase in sound, it was hard to tell where it was coming from. The echoes masked the direction. The breeding pool, Billy shouted, waving her over. Come on! She broke into a run, her heart hammering, afraid to look at the breeding pool. Not afraid to. She sensed movement there. Something dark and fluid, and ran faster, finally risking a glance as she passed it by. The sound of it drove conscious thought away. It was a centipede, or millipede, big enough to put those shepherd-sized spiders to shame. Yellow eyes seemed to glow from either side of a glossy black skull, long reddish antennae twitching and quivering from the top of its head. Its long, sinuous body was low to the ground, plated and segmented, riding atop dozens of pointed red legs. It was easily 4 meters long, maybe longer, as big around as a barrel, and moving toward her, fast, its legs waving, rippling as it propelled itself across the empty pool. "Run!" Billy yelled, and Rebecca ran for her life, now breathing in the stink of the creature, a terrible sour smell that would have made her gag if she'd had time to bother. Billy was holding the door to the observatory open with his foot. The shotgun trained just past her, and she could feel how close it was, feel like a shadow overtaking her. Just as she reached Billy, he fired, pumping the shotgun and firing again as she flew past him, diving through the door. The second she was through, he leaped back, the door slamming closed. And a split second past that, they heard its body brush it past the door, the sound of its armored body pressing against heavy wood. They waited, both of them staring at the door, but after a few seconds the sound stopped. It became the clatter of many feet moving away. "Good Christ," Billy said. Rebecca nodded. He reached down, helped her to her feet, both of them breathing heavily. "Let's not go back that way," Rebecca said, hoping very much they wouldn't have to. Sounds like a plan," Billy agreed. They were silent for a moment, looking around at their sanctuary. It was a big round room, bi-level. There were standing on a kind of catwalk in that half circled the room. Kind of catwalk that half circled the room. Sorry about that. Another set of doors was at the northern end. Near the doors was a short ladder off the walk, leading down to a metal mesh platform that was lined with equipment. Beneath the platform was darkness. Together they moved around the walk, stopping at the second set of doors, locked. They exchanged a dismal glance, but said nothing. Heading for the ladder, Rebecca went down first, stopping at the large piece of machinery that dominated the room in its center. Presumably the telescope. There was a telescope arm, but it was high overhead, out of reach. Behind her, Billy was looking at the rest of the equipment, computer banks and other machines that she didn't recognize. She turned to the telescope, looking down at the console, and felt her breath catch. There were 3 empty depressions on it, each shaped like a small tombstone, flat on one end, rounded on the other. I don't see a radio here, but," Billy was saying, until she interrupted. "Tell me, you still have those tablets?" she said. Billy turned, looked at the console as he unzipped his pack. He pulled the tablets out, each about the size of a paperback book, but thinner. Rebecca took them, remembering Umbrella's discomfiting motto as she set them in place. "Obedience breeds discipline. Discipline breeds unity. Unity breeds power. And power is life," Billy finished. As soon as the third tablet fell into place, a giant sound filled the tall room, a sound of vast machines at work, and they could feel the room around them start to descend, like an elevator. Not just the platform, the entire room, walls and all. Beneath their feet, the darkness rose up, became a pool of water, agitated into a froth by the moving platform. Rebecca had a second to wonder if the platform was going to stop. A flash of panic that they were about to be drowned, and then the sound of machinery died away, the room becoming still again. In the last fading drone of the machines, they heard a clear click sound coming from the northern doors overhead. They looked at each other, and Rebecca saw her surprise mirrored on his lean face. Guess we know where to go next, Billy said, trying a smile, but it wasn't a convincing one. Rebecca didn't even try. They were being led, but was it to freedom, or like lambs to the slaughter? One way to find out. Without speaking, they turned and walked to the ladder. And that is Chapter 9 to Resident Evil 0 Hour. I'll read you Chapter 10 next. Well, Chapter 9 to Resident Evil 0 Hour. I'll read Chapter 10 next time. Good night.